Popular belief will have you thinking that prices are solely based on supply, demand, cost going into making the product. And what's going on lately is that you do have that. There is a minimum price in which products can be sold in order to make a profit. That is always going to take place. However, what is going on now is that you have rumors being spread, and those rumors will then affect how you think about prices. So when Donald Trump is out here talking like we're going to cause tariffs, we're going to get China to pay for stuff, we're going to, Canada's been taking advantage of us for a long time, we're going to tax them, Mexico, they owe us money, pay for the wall, whatever. When those rumors start and you got the idea of tariffs, you yourself, you're going to believe that you're going to be paying higher prices. You are going to have an inflated expectation. You're going to have an elevated inflation expectation. You are going to expect higher prices in the future. When you expect higher prices in the future, that gives the green light to then raise the prices. So right now we have a problem. The Federal Reserve has this new problem. This is a new issue. For the last 100 years, they've been using the interest rate alone to affect how they want money to flow. Right? They're setting their treasuries at certain prices, their bonds. They're using these interest rates to stimulate the economy, to restrict the economy. If there's too much inflation, then they'll restrict the economy a bit. If there's not enough stimulation going on, they will lower the interest rate in order to cause stimulation. Over the last 100 years, they've been causing way too much stimulation, like on average. And so what happens is you have this hypothetical interest rate, which is called the neutral interest rate. The neutral interest rate has no mathematical formula in order to derive what it is today, but you can use data in order to understand, or in order to find what the neutral interest rate was, like in hindsight. So this neutral interest rate, it is the interest rate, the hypothetical interest rate that is neither stimulative nor restrictive to the economy. So if you have a neutral interest rate of 3%, that means a 5% interest rate is going to cause restriction in the economy. It is above the neutral interest rate. So that means the interest rate of 5% will restrict. It will slow down the economy. It will cool it down. When you have an interest rate below that neutral interest rate, so neutral interest rate of 3%, let's say the actual interest rate goes down to 1%. That causes stimulation. That encourages people to buy money, because that's what the interest rate is, right? It's the price of money. So when you take out a loan, you're buying money. So when you have that low interest rate that is below the neutral interest rate, you will cause stimulation. People want to take out money in order to make purchases. The neutral interest rate has hit the lower bound of zero. What that means is that you cannot use the interest rate to go below the neutral interest rate anymore, because it will no longer cause stimulation. We don't know what the neutral interest rate is. However, we do know that if the Federal Reserve sets the interest rate all the way down, hitting the lower bound of zero, there's no stimulation happening. So that means that they cannot cause stimulation with that interest rate anymore. So what's the new plan? We need stimulation. The economy has been running according to plan, according to them. But for me and you, it feels like shit. And, I do not make a lot of money, and that's why I say, like, me. And I'm assuming you, because most of us don't make that much money. So what's the new plan? The new plan is to start the rumor that gets you to spend money. So they found out that they can move the neutral interest rate depending on how you spend money, like you and me. And corporations, right? Like how they spend money in the billions of dollars. Like if they get everybody, like you, me, and Microsoft, and Apple, and TikTok, if they get everybody to spend money a certain way, they can move the neutral interest rate. So right now we have an interest rate, the Fed funds rate, the real interest rate, right? Like what banks have to pay to borrow money from the Federal Reserve, right? Because you and me aren't borrowing money from the Federal Reserve. The banks are. And the mortgage lenders borrow from the bank. So like there's a constant price that is given to the buyer, right? So the bank is the first buyer, the mortgage lender is the second buyer, the auto lender is the second buyer too. And so what they're trying to do is they are going to use rumors in order to get people to spend money. They found out that they can move the neutral interest rate if they increased money velocity. Money velocity is the amount of dollars spent per day. It is how fast money moves, right? The velocity of the money. And I say money, and it's, you know, the US dollar isn't money. It's a currency. Gold is money. Silver is money. Copper, money. Like these things, money holds inherent value. Trading blueberries for a beaver pelt, both of those are considered money in that situation. They both have inherent value, whether you put a number to it or not. Like blueberries feed, beaver pelts keep warm. They have inherent value. So if they get people to spend more money, you can raise the neutral interest rate. It's kind of tough when interest rates are so high, right? The Fed funds rate is about 4.25% to 4.5%. They don't specify. I don't know why. So if they keep this interest rate, the Fed funds rate, if they keep it high, they keep it elevated, and they move the neutral interest rate, right? Neutral interest rate, Fed funds rate. If they keep the Fed funds rate somewhat high, and they have the neutral interest rate, which you know is hitting the lower bound of zero, that's what they say. They can find out that if they increase money velocity, you have movement here, right? Increasing the amount of money spent per day that moves the neutral interest rate up, causing stimulation, right? It's not going to be very stimulative, but it will be stimulative compared to like yesterday. So if you move the neutral interest rate up, that causes stimulation. How do we move the interest rate up? We increase money velocity. How do we increase money velocity? How do we get people to spend more money? Interest rates are high, so people aren't really willing to spend money like that frivolously. This is where tariffs come in. Donald Trump, he's out there talking tariffs. He's doing the tariffs, I guess, right? And you have all these other countries, they're coming with either counter tariffs, they're coming to make deals, whatever it is. It's not important. It's weird to say, I know, because it's always on the news. And when things are on the news, you know that one, you can't trust them, and two, even if there are facts, there's something else going on there. It's not just face value, right? If they tell you that there's tariffs, there's another plan there. And that's what I'm telling you, because the Federal Reserve is very explicitly explained how they're going to do this. They, like the Federal Reserve, they call it forward guidance, right? Using their words in order to create stimulation or restriction in the economy. They use the story of the gold machine. The gold machine it's a story made up by Ben Bernanke back in 2002. And so it goes where you have this alchemist and he invents a gold machine. That gold machine is then verified and observed by scientists, by journalists, by politicians. And then once the journalists, politicians, and scientists start putting the word out that this gold machine is real and that it works and that it uses very little energy, it doesn't cost very much, Once the word gets out there, the price of gold plummets before even plugging that bitch in. So there doesn't need to be like an increase of gold supply just for the price of gold to plummet, because the word is already out. Once the word is out, price of gold drops. Again, don't need to print, like, make any gold. Just the word of it out there is what's going to cause the price of gold to plummet. So now we're going to take that gold machine story and apply it to today. Today, the gold machine is the tariffs, right? The tariff is the gold machine. You have this idea of tariffs, and you have politicians, journalists, I guess not scientists, but you have politicians and journalists talking about it all day, every fucking day for months. That's the Federal Reserve plan. Talk about it all the time, every day. It's Trump did this and stock market crashed. Trump did this, stock market went up. Trump did this. He's talking about the tariffs all the time. We get everything from imports. Everything is imported to America. America is not an exporting nation, unless you want to consider us like a producer of dollars, in which we are. Like, we produce dollars, and those dollars go right out into the world. The dollars are the world reserve currency, like, effectively. Like, the United States is the #1 customer of the whole world. #1. Like, nobody buys as much dumb shit like we do. We are rich as fuck. We have access to all this money, and all that money that we make here goes out. You buy a coffee maker from fucking Walmart, that money goes right into China. I know that's not technically how it works, right? Because like Walmart buys it first and then you give it to Walmart, but effectively that money goes to China. So the tariff is the gold machine, and you got politicians and journalists writing about it all the time. They're talking all the time. These tariffs will raise your prices. You, like you and me, not me, I don't believe it, but you, if you believe that you will be paying higher prices in the future, that's the Federal Reserve's plan. That's the plan. It's to get people thinking that they're going to be spending more money in the future, right? They called it increased inflation expectation. The increased inflation expectation, meaning the prices that you think will be paying in the future, those will be higher. Your expectation of inflated prices. So when they increase your expectation of inflated prices, you will go to the store next week and buy avocados for $3 more than you did last week, because you were constantly told that tariffs will raise the price. So Trump didn't raise, like, there are some countries in which they came up with some deal, right? Like Trump said, we're going to increase tariffs in this country. This country was like, look, we'll make a deal. And then boom, good. If you have a product that comes from that country, I would check, see if the price went up and if that country has an increased tariff. It might be the case that the product is more expensive and that the tariff did not increase. If you spend more money, the neutral interest rate goes up. When the neutral interest rate goes up, that causes stimulation in the economy, because it is, right, neutral interest rate and the Fed funds rate, the real interest rate. We're kind of like this, right? The problem is neutral interest rate is too low and the interest rate is wicked high, 4.25% to 4.5%. If you spend more money normally, right? Like, you're not trying to spend more money, you just have to spend more money. At least that's what you think. You think that you have to spend more money. You spending more money is going to cause the neutral interest rate to rise. And that's the plan. It's not like Trump says, you know, that China's been screwing us with tariffs for a long time. We need to get even. That's not why this is happening. When Trump says we got to fire Jerome Powell, he's an asshole, get this guy out of here. Trump was the guy that appointed Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell and Trump are together on this. This is the plan, right? If we get everybody to believe that there will be inflated prices in the future, you will expect inflated prices and therefore will pay inflated prices. The inflated prices are not just because of tariffs. Now, the tariffs are real in whatever real means. Like they're probably real, right? I'm not saying that they're completely fake. There is a tariff. I'm not there. I'm not there signing the piece of paper being like, oh, we can't do that. There's no way. We don't have access to this information. You end up always just having to trust somebody. Like, we know that all of these institutions have lied to us about every stupid little thing. Like, we've been lied to so much, there's no way that you can just tell what's real just because CNN, just because Fox Business Insider says so. Like, there's no way to just verify shit. But, you know, they're spreading them spreading the rumor is the plan. The gold machine is the tariffs. And you can tell people believe it because the market volatility has been wild lately. I mean, we're pretty much talking crypto numbers at this point. Like, crypto is just based on perception and perception alone. Crypto is based on perception alone if you convert it into dollars, right? Like, I think that there is genuine usefulness in the technology of Bitcoin itself, right? Having a ledger that cannot be fucked with, allegedly, and you know, it's always accurate, always tracked. There's benefit to having that even as a currency, right? It's very difficult to get hacked and all this, whatever. I'm not saying that it itself is nothing, even though it kind of is. Like, the technology is worth something. But, like, the volatility has become, crypto has reached the levels of crypto in which, like, your investment in a certain stock is going to be affected based on what you hear, even if it has nothing to do with the stock alone. And that's crypto shit, right? If Elon Musk puts out a tweet and he's like, Doge to the moon, let's rally up, like, the price of Doge skyrockets. That's just the word. And that's what the Federal Reserve's plan is, to get people to spend more money so that they could raise the neutral interest rate and get their ammunition back with the real interest rate. So, yeah, that's it. Stay woke. You know, you'll figure it out.